As we get closer to the release of Warhammer the Old World, and more news is presented to us by Games Workshop, I sat down with the rest of the Great Book of Grudges team and we discussed what we'd like to and not like to see within the eventual release. And today I'd like to actually talk about the top 5 things that were mentioned that we'd like to see in Warhammer the Old World that could be taken from Warhammer 40,000 and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. Please note that these opinions are that of my own and the rest of the team, and does not reflect any product that will come out from Games Workshop in reference to Warhammer the Old World. We are just merely speculating at this point and hoping that we'll actually see these things, and maybe we'll come up with a discussion with you guys in the comments below. So without further ado, let's begin. Firstly, we'd like to see the release of index books. The index system when Warhammer 40,000 was absolutely great for 8th edition. It was a great way to launch all the armies at once and more or less have them all in the same balance. It wasn't perfect by all means, but it was releasing multiple races at once. The indexes themselves could be split into various amounts, where all the human factions could be together, all the elf factions together, all the chaos factions together, and so on and so forth, but it would make quite a lot of sense, because that way a lot of armies could get into the table quicker, rather than having nothing. As far as we're aware, Warhammer the Old World is a complete new system, not Warhammer Fantasy Battles 9th, so we won't be able to use our old army books. A lot of things might change, and it will change the armies radically. It would make no sense having all the old armies waiting and only just releasing one at a time or two at a time. Next, I'd like to look towards the FAQ updates, which are becoming quite a regular thing in the Warhammer community. Obviously, this is something that is very much needed, because when a new army book comes out, it's usually quite too powerful or very underpowered and needs to be changed, with just some minor updates. So if we look at it like that, maybe it would be good if we had this for Warhammer the Old World too. As far as I'm aware, it's becoming more and more popular, especially in Warhammer 40k and in Age of Sigmar, so it would actually keep the balance rolling, rather than having an army come out and just destroy everyone else, or just not being able to win. Let's face it, if we look towards the Beastmen in Warhammer Fantasy, they've not had the best track record, and they would probably be one of the races to get FAQ'd straight off the bat. That being said, it would also be very good if these things got playtested a little bit more and wouldn't need so many FAQs, but, you know, it's a massive game, and if we're going to get all the races that featured in 8th edition and before that, it might be a bit difficult to pre-balance. Because at the end of the day, there's only so much they can do, especially if they've already set a release date, or if they've already got something planned internally. I am well aware that obviously army books can be cheesed. We see that a lot in 40k. I'm not too sure about Age of Sigmar, but I see a lot of cheese in 40k. When a new army book comes out, depending on even how it gets FAQ'd, it can still be cheesed to the point that it is very competitive. I believe the Iron Hands are still destroying everyone left, right and centre. Next, we look towards the Bloat Issue. Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition was extremely bloated, and it doesn't take a genius to tell you that. The army books were pretty broken, the rulebook was close to 600 pages, and it didn't really need that much, but the issue was not so much the size of the rulebook, but the fact that certain rules were split into different sections throughout the book, where you'd need to go to one section of a book, and then it would actually tell you to skip 20 pages ahead to find something there, or you'd have to go backwards, and so on. It was a big issue. It should be streamlined a lot better, and obviously this is something that GW had an issue with back in the day, and they've been doing a lot better with now, so hopefully these things do translate into Warhammer the Old World, because even I forget rules. Anyone that played Warhammer Fantasy back in the day, they forget rules. If someone tells you that they know the book off by heart, and I mean 100% off by heart, they're lying. Trust me, they are. Now I want to look towards faction and army identity, something that was actually lost in Warhammer Fantasy as the editions went on. It's something that I see in Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Age of Sigmar, and it's what I want back. Gone are the days where you used to field multiple different Empire armies or Vampire Count armies, and they would actually have different rules and settings towards them. If you would play as the Vampire Counts, you used to have the choice of Von Carsteins, Necrach, Strigoi, and so on, which would give you abilities and spells and items and maybe sometimes certain other units which you could use. In most cases they would remove core restrictions, make those into special units and so on. It was actually kinda cool because it gave you a reason to theme your armies. Nowadays that is actually lost in Warhammer Fantasy 8th edition, and it was lost in the end times too. It was actually kinda sad, to be honest, because I used to love seeing people painting up their armies as Middenheimers or Reichlanders. I myself prefer Clan Pestilence theme, as you've seen in the battle reports. It's something that should return. Now, I'm not saying faction-specific models. I don't want to see Knights of the White Wolf locked behind Middenheim or Middenland. Instead, I want to see a reason to be able to use them and a benefit to using them as that specific army. It just makes a lot more sense, and it would give people reason to theme their armies. Many players I know locally theme their armies after specific kingdoms, provinces, and so on. It's actually really cool to see, and obviously you see that in Warhammer 40k and Warhammer Age of Sigmar. For example, in 40k, you have Blood Angels, Dark Angels, Ultramarines, and so on. Yes, they have faction-specific units, and I'm not really too keen on that, but I want to see more identity. I want to see a reason why you should be playing as the Moot, or playing as Reichland, maybe point reduction costs, certain units turn into core, or from rare to special, and so on. Just give a reason to be able to do so. Now, I'm all perfectly fine with faction-specific characters, like for example the Elector Count of Reichland, which would be Karl Franz, should be seen in Reichland lists and not for example Ostland, who have their own Elector Count and their own character of prestige. This could be a bit controversial, because obviously we did lose this for 7th, I think we lost this, but it's something that should return. I want to see faction identity, it makes it so much cooler. And lastly, now we have more of a controversial subject to this list, which is an easy entry system for new players. Warhammer Fantasy Battles itself was very bloated, and it required a lot of money to get into, whereas I want to see a bit of a system more like 6th edition in terms of entry, where it was cheaper and it was actually easier for players to get into. You shouldn't have to spend £500-600 or to the equivalent of whatever currency you use in your country to be able to actually have a decent enough army to actually get some fun games into. Also, mini games would work really well here, where we could probably bring back systems like, for example, Mordheim or other things. They would play very differently, like for example how Warcry currently does with Age of Sigmar, or Warhammer Underworlds does with Age of Sigmar, but you know, it would entice people to play if there was a lower cost of entry for smaller mini games, and then they could feel more incentivized to actually spend more money and join the larger system. Naturally, this is very dependent on Games Workshop and how they're actually working in the background. Like I said before, I don't know what they're doing in the background. I don't know anything. I'm actually a very small YouTuber, so I wouldn't be told anything of these things. But I wanted to share my hopes and hope that maybe they're doing something in this format. As far as we're aware, we are a long way from Warhammer the Old World's eventual release. We've barely been given much news other than the fact that it's been announced and that we know that it's been confirmed that we're going to be eventually getting new rules, new models and so on, but we still don't know anything about it further than that. I am hoping that we'll get some more news within the next few weeks and months, but hey, we just have to be patient at this point. As I was explaining to someone in the team before, you know, we waited 6 years, we can wait a little bit longer. I know it's asking for a lot, but yeah, we'll try and do as much as we can. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description link below, we have some various social media links where you can get in contact with us via Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and so on. We have a Discord link where we're quite active and we chat and we talk about lore and just a few other things. There's also an affiliate link in the description below where you can get Warhammer stuff and loads of other hobby stuff for cheaper, like around 20 to 25% off, depending on the product. The link itself also supports the channel a little bit, which really does help out. You know, we're working on a lot of projects and so on, so a little bit of extra money coming in does really help, and it's no extra cost to you guys, which is absolutely fantastic. A big thank you to our patrons. You know, the work that you guys put into this just by donating a little bit, it really does help us out, so we can't really thank you enough. But with that, my friends, once again, thank you so much for watching, and I shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.